Welcome to A Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes, and today for the matchday coverage I am joined by Kevin Graham, and also for his third appearance on the show, Scotty Allcroft, zooming in all the way from Spain. How are you doing, Scott?
I'm very well, good to see you, Paul, as ever.
Good to see that centenary jersey, mate. I remember back in the day, the Perriers had that. It's still one of the classic jerseys of Celtic past, isn't it?
It's one of my favourites, mate. Favourites of all time.
The big chat after the European game, and what I was trying to say to all the guys and girls in the WhatsApp group was we were kind of looking for a point, not a turning point, Kevin, as such, but a point where, it's ground zero. Let's get this started. Let's start again, rip it up and start again. And I think the unexpected victory against Lille, there was no hysteria, I don't think. I think, everybody had to enjoy the victory, Kevin. I mean, we saw your reaction, obviously, on the broadcast after the game. But it was an opportunity to say, you know what, we might actually got a wee bit lucky with regards to some of the players coming in and performing. But let's work on that. Let's build on that. And I think when you see that team line up today, my biggest fear leading up to this morning was that he was going to revert back to Christie and possibly Brown and bring in one of the other goalies. I'm delighted with that lineup, Kev. What's your thoughts?
I'm delighted with that lineup as well, and it's probably one of the rare occasions this season that I've actually been delighted with the lineup. As you say, the worry was that he would go back to type. He would revert to the old favourites. Obviously, Frimpong making it has left that decision about Ryan, has made the decision not to play Ryan Christie a bit easier because Frimpong played well on the right hand side of the midfield the other night. Eddie's obvious when I says it after the game on Thursday night that it's Eddie for Kamala, and I would probably go the same again. But he's went the same again. This is big. This is a massive moment for Neil. He obviously saw a bit of confidence in that team. He took a bit of confidence in himself. The other night he says, "What is Lenny Ball?" Lenny Ball. I've been thinking about this. Unfortunately for the listeners and the viewers, I've been thinking about what is Lenny Ball, and it's something that breathes. It's something that's organic. It's something that's like it's chaotic. It's not. It's a living organism, I think, and I think that comes with confidence. I think you get Lenny Ball when the players are confident going forward and creating chances. So I'm hoping to see the return of Lenny Ball today. I really are. I want to see some. You see teams that are well coached. Brendan Rodgers' teams never descended into chaos. Neil Lennon's greatest games have all been chaotic. They've all absolutely been chaotic. So I know it's not maybe where we want to go in the future, but it's where we are just now. So I'm hoping for a full-on 100% return of Lenny Ball this afternoon.
Well, Scott, just talking to yourself, I know you're watching from afar at the moment over in Spain, watching Celtic week in, week out. But when you're watching from afar, and we're all kind of feeling the same way, you feel a wee bit detached from the side. You're not at the games, and I know you were a season ticket holder right up until moving over to Spain, but you feel as though you can't even affect the games in any way. And I know that Celtic fans have always prided ourselves on the fact that Paradise, and we're the greatest fans in the world, and we can lift the team to a performance in a European night that seems unlikely, etc. Now, all of that said, we know where we are. We know what the mitigating circumstances have been this season. Do you honestly think yourself that we can use the Lille performance as a turning point for the season?
Absolutely. We spoke about it off air there. I think if you don't change something that's working, and it clearly worked on Thursday night, those guys had drive, determination, and as Kevin said, a bit of Lenny Ball again. This is what we need. We need guys that have got passion, that are going to pass the ball forward. I think all this side-to-side nonsense that we've been watching recently it's just guff. So get these young guys in that are ambitious, that want to do well for the club, that want to stake a claim in the team. And like guys like Brown and that, they can affect the game off the bench. So give these young guys Turnbull that have played in the SPL and know what the SPL is all about. Sorrow as well, who was brilliant the other night. Frimpong, who's got the energy. We just want to see energy. We're just sick to death of all this side-to-side nonsense that's been going on for ages, Paul.
I think so. I mean, we have been watching a team that has become very easy to play against. That's the biggest issue. And I've said it a few times this season, teams like Ross County and St Johnstone coming to Celtic Park no longer feared the way we were playing. Now, I've got no doubt when you're looking across that kind of, particularly the offensive line, Kevin, those individual players, from like Salt on the left, right over to Frimpong on the right, with, let's say, Edouard in the middle, etc. They players that have been playing for most of the season over the last couple of months anyway, are excellent players, but it wasn't working. So the biggest issue for me was this massive gap between attack and defence, that transitional play from an attack breaking down to us then having to defend a counter, and teams were finding it particularly easy to break us down because you then throw in the vulnerability of Shane Duffy, who hasn't actually settled in, Julien being injured, us playing guys out of position in Beaton, and then you've got a real issue. And I think that, probably in fairness to the goalkeeper that's come in, he's probably suffered more than anyone from that because he's had nothing in front of him that's been the same week in, week out. I think a simple part of that process and putting in Sorrow changed everything in relation to that, because what you had then was you had finally someone who could break up these attacks from the midfield. So before the defence was actually being put under the pressure, you've got that holding midfielder doing a holding midfielder's job. Was Scott Brown doing that? Well, against Sparta Prague, I counted 4 occasions in the first half in the last 4-1 game, Kevin, where he lost out on really simple tackles about 25 yards out from his own box. I don't think Sorrow lost a tackle at all the other night. So Sorrow and Turnbull are the two biggies, but I'm delighted that he's also kept in Hazard, because what I seen from Hazard was a goalkeeper who was commanding his area. I mean, is this something that, a lot of people are saying it might have been a flash in the pan? The guys, they're going to be rested because they'll have fatigue from Thursday night. I really do think that this could be a big turning point for Lenny this season. Now, I wasn't watching the game, I was too busy preparing for this, but I understand that Rangers won at Tannadice 2-1. Now, the first thing I would say is the guy that scored for United, I was just saying to Scotty beforehand, Liam Smith. Now, Liam comes from Dalgety Bay in Fife, and his dad, Andy, who's a big Celtic man. Liam also, even though he started at Rangers, is a big Celtic fan. And he used to come and play sevens with us at Dalgety Bay every Wednesday night, Kevin, when he was a young guy, and he shouldn't have been there, actually. So I've always kept a wee eye on his career since then. So delighted for him to have scored that goal against Rangers. I'm pretty sure he'd have been chuffed, as would his dad, Andy. But I'm looking at games like that now, Kevin. I'm looking at Tannadice. I expected Dundee United to get nothing from that game. But when you watch that, and the fact that Rangers, it's been a hard-fought victory for them. Scotty said before we came on, that's Tavernier now been involved in 30 goals this season, either as an assist or as scoring a goal, which is incredible from a fullback. But they're not infallible. They will drop points. There's going to be occasions where we're going into a game, Kev, and they've maybe been drawn 2-2 at Tannadice. They've been outstanding this season, but we can't just say they're going to go the entire season, win every single game. But what's important is that we get our own house back in order. We look after our own backyard, and we win games like today. Games like today we've not been winning, St Johnstone being the prime example. So talk to me about how you think Celtic will actually approach this game in terms of the game plan, the shape, and how you think it's going to actually pan out today.
The game plan will probably be the same shape as what it was Thursday night, which was a 4-4-1-1. Taylor will add a bit of defensive steel on the left hand side because he is a defender first and foremost. We've got a lot of energy down that left hand side. That's what we need. This is when we've been good under Neil Lennon, rightly or wrongly or long term. I understand even when we're playing well, we give up chances. If you look at this point last year, the League Cup final last year, how many chances that we gave up. If you look at how many chances that Neil Lennon's side give up, they're quite happy the coaching staff or Neil's quite happy to give up chances. And I'm sure Kilmarnock will get chances today. Over the last 6, 7, 8, 9 weeks, wherever this bad period's been, what we've actually seen is teams scoring with every shot that they've had it go. There's never been a break. There's never been a game. There's never been a goal where you've went, that keeper could have done better. The keeper should have saved that. Maybe the first one against Rangers. But every shot that seems to come against us goes in. And that wasn't happening at this point last year. What we need to do, we need to tell Sorrow to watch. We need to attack. We need to be energetic. If we match the effort and the energy of any of our opponents in Scotland, then we should beat them. But it's all about the application. It's all about moving the ball quick. It's all about being energetic, getting the ball back, being quick in the transition, but being switched on as well when other teams attack against us. We haven't been switched on at all over this dodgy period. We've been giving up too many chances, too many set plays, too many rash challenges round the edge of the box, and we haven't really been creating a lot of chances as well. I want to see us create chances today. I want to see us really go for it right for the start, and I think that's what we need to do. What I will say though, I think we need to score first. Scoring in the first 20 minutes, I think you'll see a completely different Celtic. The longer the game goes on, if out a goal or if we go 1-0 down, then we might revert to what's been recent type.
Well, when you look at some of the performances, Kevin, I think we've been saying it's stale, it's a bit stagnant, there's a malaise, it's almost as if they've been playing with shackles on, Scott. What I was saying after the Lille game is that I think, by design or with a wee element of luck, and let's be honest, we've not had much luck this season. I think Neil Lennon's possibly stumbled across a couple of issues that he's had all season and ways to actually resolve that. So first of all, we all know Barkas has come in, it's not worked out so far, and what we might even have in Hazard is a commanding goalkeeper. That sounds really basic. I don't think we've had that all season. I don't think Bain's a commanding goalie, and Barkas certainly hasn't been a commanding goalie. So I really do hope Hazard is the answer. I still expect us to go into the January transfer market and buy another goalkeeper. In saying that, I think a right back who can defend and overlap is something that we've had an issue with, because Frimpong's not a right back. He does a lot right in the offensive areas. He also has to work on his final ball. We all know that. But as a defender, I don't rate him. El Hamid, obviously, this season I thought he was a better defender, and then he's made a number of bad mistakes, particularly in Europe this season. But we now know that there were personal issues. So I think in Ayer, we've actually found someone who can fit that position as well, hopefully. And I'm quite happy to keep him there as long as we get a central defensive partnership in Julien plus another that works for us. A midfielder who can deal with the attack to defence transition, which I don't think Scott Brown's been dealing with. No, Scott Brown. He's not been dealing with that. Sorrow seems to be the man that can deal with it. And Kevin, going back to what you were saying there, breaking down the team, the opposition, a midfielder who's able to unlock the defence. And not just that, but take a corner kick and maybe even take a free kick. And I think we've found that player in Turnbull. So Christie, I'm being a big champion of Christie, but he's on the bench until he comes in and proves himself as a first pick. So when I'm looking at that team, Scotty, what's your prediction for yourself today? How do you think? I mean, I think it's probably dangerous to play Kilmarnock the same way that we played Lille. Although I do agree with Kev, I think we'll play with 4 at the back. How do you see this one panning out today?
I honestly think this is going to be the turning point today. I know we've been saying it for weeks, but I just think after Thursday night, we've definitely got the formation and the setup. We've got it properly done now. I just don't think it's been there all season. I don't think the players have looked set properly whatsoever in most of the games. But I think this is going to be the turning point, and I hope Edouard's got his France top on underneath his Celtic one today, and we can maybe get a few goals out of him as well.
Oh, without a doubt. Now, looking at that bench, again, it's something that we might have to utilise. You never know how it's going to go today. But, one plus point I would say, I'm surprised Laxalt's on there. I don't know if he's injured or if Lenny just, as I was saying before, we're going to approach Kilmarnock differently from playing Lille. One big plus point for me is Mikey Johnson back on that bench. Kevin Graham, we've struggled on the left hand side this season, so it would be brilliant to see Mikey coming in even for a wee 10-minute 15-minute run out.
It would be. I think he only got an hour on Monday in the Colt game, because you saw it on Thursday night, that Turnbull and Sorrow are going to tire because of the lack of the game minutes. So the bench is going to be important today. Because if it's tight, then you've got to have a look at the options that you've got on the bench as well. I'm glad to see Mikey Johnson back. Hopefully he can find the form that made him such a hot prospect at this point last season. It's a long time to be out with an injury for the lad, so I won't be heaping too much pressure on him because he'll need to find his way back in. But hopefully we get to see him getting some minutes at the end of this game if it's called for. I didn't want to see him getting thrown on when we're maybe chasing the game. We've got other options on the bench. I don't want to see pressure put on him like that. If the time's right and the game's right, then I wouldn't mind seeing him getting minutes. But then again, we're pinning our hopes on him because we've had such a lack of wide players this season. And it's a lot of pressure on the guy coming back for a very serious injury. So we need to just take our time with him.
I think we do. I mean, when you look at El Yunusi, the performance against Lille was accomplished. It wasn't spectacular. I mean, what he can do well, Scotty, the way he glides past players, the way he can create a chance, he's actually a good goal scorer. He's one of our only threats offensively in the air. I mean, most of our threat comes from the likes of Julian. I was going to throw Ayer in there as well, but I think he's murder in the air. Some of the times he gets that ball at 6 yards out, he doesn't know what to do with it. And Duffy's obviously scored a couple of goals, but I think when you're going up front, I think Moy is probably our biggest threat in the air. But he played a different game against Lille. He was very compact. It was unspectacular, but he'd done what he had to do. And I thought that him and Laxalt actually worked really well together. It'll be interesting to see Scotty Taylor coming in now. Again, he came in for a lot of criticism at the beginning of this season, but I think he was being a victim of playing for a Celtic side that played completely differently from the Kilmarnock side that he joined us from. He's a defender, and he was spending 2/3 of his game attacking, and that I don't think is his strong point. But if Taylor does a defensive side down that left and lets El Yunusi free, I think that will be a good combination today.
Aye, definitely. I think the problem with Taylor as well is that I think a lot of fans were expecting another Kieran Tierney, who could not only defend but attack, and that's not the type of player that boy is. So like you said, if he does a defensive side properly today, then El Yunusi's going to have the freedom to just keep attacking. He'll not have to do as much of his defensive duties. But like I said, I think a lot of the fans were expecting another Kieran Tierney, and that's not what Greg Taylor is. He doesn't beat a man, get to the byline and whip it in. You sort of see him get to the byline, then he sort of comes back, and you'll maybe give the ball into Callum McGregor or one of the midfielders. He doesn't. But he has had a few assists. I think when he first came in, he was sort of doing that, and then he sort of shied away from it again after that. Mm-hmm. But I think he's a cracking wee left back. He'll do well with it.
Well, I hope he does, Scott, because we need everybody in a Celtic jersey from now to the end of the season to stake their claim.
Yeah.
We're kind of going towards kick-off, but before we do that, let's get some of the viewers involved, Kevin. People are tuning in via Facebook, Twitter, and also YouTube. If you are on YouTube, please remember to subscribe. Everything we do is free, and we will be doing a lot of content leading up to the quadruple treble charity weekend or next weekend. Some of the messages, Kev, that we've been getting in have been brilliant, from the likes of Craig Bellamy, and who else have I put out? I've got a few on my phone actually I need to put out today. Gianni Capaldi, Frank McAvenny. It's been tremendous to get the words of support, and we've got a massive supportive message coming in this week from the music world, which I won't reveal at the moment because I want to make sure it's here before we put it out. People are sending in items for us to auction as well, which is tremendous. We've got a few signed jerseys, a few match worn jerseys. Superb. If you want to sponsor us, you want to donate, get in touch, click on the link underneath. We're only 40 quid short of $5,000, and that would be tremendous by the end of today to get £5,000, Kev. So what I'm going to ask you before we go into the actual questions coming in is, we had David Lowe on the show on Friday. David and I like a wee fencing match from time to time on Twitter. We like to disagree from time to time. But David has been on the show about 6 times, I think. And it's important that we found out exactly what the Celtic Trust were planning for today with the protest, Kevin. What's your thoughts on that? Do you think, what is it they're protesting against? Is it the higher echelons of Celtic Park?
I think it is. The Trust have got a very clear end game, and that is to buy shares and then get representation on the board. Unlike any other supporters group that are out there, that the Trust are very clear with what their aim is. Look, there was a protest there today, and I think there was about 300 there. It was a horrible, horrible day. As I say, there's a lot of silent majority of Celtic fans that would probably have disagreed with the protest. If you're an outsider looking in, it looks like people are only protesting because the board will only sack a manager. But as I've said plenty of times on this podcast as well, that these these problems have been here for years and years, and they've been flagged up to the club for years and years. It's just so happened that the board seem to have been parochial and a bit short-sighted with the appointment of Neil Lennon, and also this summer as well. It seemed as if they didn't believe their own game plan this summer, because, well, we all thought this summer would have sold at least 2 players, and it never happened. And it looks like that's been the wrong decision now, not to sell players who the managers called out as being unhappy. I mean, the trust from I'm a member of the affiliation, and from our point of view, the protest today was, well, we couldn't really back the protest when 100% of our members can't travel to Glasgow to take part in the protest. So we couldn't put our name to a protest where none of our members can actually travel to go to.
Due to the restrictions, yeah, absolutely.
Due to the restrictions, that's not to say that the members of the affiliation weren't behind the protest. It's just that we can't put our name to that because we can't travel to it.
You can't be there, yeah.
You can't be there, But look, everybody's got a right to protest. I do know that from my own experience, that the affiliation do have robust conversations with the club on a regular basis. Used to be more regular under Ronnie Dyler's tenure, right enough, when there wasn't 52,000 season ticket holders and they couldn't give away tickets for nothing. But that just shows you the club need to engage with the fans, and they will start engaging with the fans once again once they need their money. So fair play to the trust today. I think it all went off peacefully. I do agree that they sacked the board, back the team. Version 2.0 of the slogan of the early 90s, but there's been plenty of times where we should have been shouting sack the board, not just now. And I can understand, not that I care what other people think, but I can understand why some folk come in and go, we're only protesting because we're in a poor run of form. I don't care. It does look like that, but it isn't that. What we're bringing up over the last couple of weeks has been happening for the last decade.
Deep-rooted issues at the club that go beyond a poor run of form, I think, Kevin, is what you're saying, and that's exactly why the protest took place. Now, let's have a look at some of the comments coming through. Mr. Briggs commenting on YouTube. Last throw of the dice today, Lenny. He's stuck by the lads who put in a shift on Thursday. If this doesn't work and they drop more points, then it's definitely gone 3 points or bust today. Scott, do you agree with that? And also, one name we haven't mentioned is young Ewan Henderson. Hendo had a good game when he came in. He was full of energy. I didn't expect him to start today, but he's dropped completely out of the squad. Do you think that's maybe fatigue or a wee niggling injury, perhaps?
I don't know, mate. I absolutely don't know. But like you said, he came on, he had a brilliant wee game. It's pretty crazy why he's not made the bench, but maybe it's just to give Mikey Johnson his chance for him to come back in. But like you said, I thought the guys on Thursday night deserved to keep their places. So I'm not sure. What the score is with Henderson.
See, the big thing as well is obviously I want the best for Celtic first and foremost, and then who's in charge is secondary to that. So if I've got a loyalty to Neil Lennon, which I do, then if it's him that's going to have to make way for Celtic's success, then I'll stick by that. But what I will say is that even if Celtic get back on track, come January, then it's going to make an even more interesting situation, because then you're asking yourself, do you still want to change the manager? And Kaplan Mark says this truthfully is a rebuilding job. I still think Lennon is not going to take us forward. I don't think Neil Lennon can take us forward. I think what's important is that we don't allow the season to completely run so far away from us that it's unsalvageable. And that was my biggest concern, and that is why I thought a change should have been made as far back as Pittodrie, Kevin. I said that on the day. But in the meantime, at no point do I want Celtic to drop any more points. I want us to go out there and win today. I want us to continue and put a run of wins together, so that obviously we go into the Scottish Cup final next week and we get a result to win a historical quadruple treble. And then from there, I want us to continue that, so that we're one eye on the game against Rangers at Ibrox. But then if we do win all of these games, Kevin, and it looks unlikely on current form, but if we were to do that, where does that leave us with the gaffer come January?
The board have made it quite clear that they're backing their man, and we don't know the whole reasons for that, but I think it's maybe down to the board are maybe seeing no stuff that we didn't know, that it's maybe not all Lennon's fault. There's some forces working against them in the dressing room, and that the board have made mistakes, what I'm saying is maybe they realise that they've made a mistake not selling people in the summer. That's caused a change in attitude in the dressing room. So they've given him a bit of time. I think it'll be changed in January. You know my views on it. I think we'll be sitting here in January under Jack Ross. I do think that. I think Lennon's getting the chance to win the cup final, and I made a comment earlier on regarding Lenny Ball. I don't think it's good for Celtic. I've always said that in the last 18 months, but it's what I've got to believe in at this precise moment in time, is because those who make the decisions have told us we've got to believe in it. So we can have all the doubts. We can have all the doubts in the world, but in 5 minutes' time, we're going to be wanting our Celtic team to go out there and win, no matter who's in charge, or no matter our own personal opinions.
100%. Now, Scott, Kevin mentioned something pretty interesting. I thought it was a wee bit kind of below the belt to bring it up with Jack Ross, but one of the guys for the media did that, didn't he, on Friday, and they asked Jack Ross about the Celtic job. I found that absolutely appalling. It's disrespectful, surely, to Neil Lennon. What's your thoughts on Jack Ross? Is that the kind of level of manager that the Celtic board will be aiming at?
I think he's Peter Lowell's wet dream, if I'm being honest with you. He's young, ambitious. I know he's been at Lennoxtown with Brendan Rodgers, watching Brendan Rodgers' coaching methods. If you look at the Alloa game, when he was Alloa manager and then he was a St Mirren manager, it's both at Celtic Park. I was at both games, and it was two of the toughest games that I think we had for, in those 2 seasons, the way he set his team up. And I was thinking at that time, if that guy had better players, he could, with the system he sets up. So it wouldn't surprise me if it was Jack Ross. I mean, on my first ever podcast with you guys, I did say that Jack Ross would definitely be the Celtic manager one day. You can just see it.
Yeah, you did say that. And, it's one of the names that I do have a lot of respect for him as a manager. Paul Cockwell's a Hibby. He comes in to the ACSOM Bulletin fairly regularly, and he's reminding us that Jack Ross's team are above us. Yes, they are, Paul. Thanks for that, buddy. Hopefully we can put that right today. I did say, Kevin, Hibs would finish second this season. Did I not say that?
Well, I changed it to you last night. I says the bare minimum Jack Ross will finish as second this season. So there you go.
Right. That's bold. That is bold.
What I will say, though, is Jack Ross would only be a success of the Celtic manager is no sack the board, but you have to have a change of CEO. You have to have a change of direction in the club.
As long as he's not sorry, Kevin, it's just as long as he's not a yes man, comes in and just, this is your backroom team, this is this. He has to come in and make his own decisions.
I think that's a massive point, Kev, because you're talking about a change in CEO. Scott made a good point earlier, saying that Jack Ross is perfectly suited. That's maybe why you would pitch at that kind of managerial level, and that's not a disrespectful comment against Jack Ross, who I've championed time and time again as a manager. But I think if Peter Lowell was still in charge, Jack Ross would be the type of manager. If a new CEO were to come in, you might have a different direction.
What'll actually, if you had a new CEO that comes in, you might have a different direction. But you look at the CEOs that have been linked look at the CEOs and the managers that have been linked over the last couple of days. The 3 CEOs have been linked are Dermot Desmond's sons, and the managers that have been linked are Martin O'Neill, Paul Lambert, and Steve Clark. We are being prepared for a continuation of what we've seen over the last 5, 6, 7 years. But it'll just be different names.
Yeah. Well, like you said before, Kevin, Neil Lennon's in charge today. He's picked his team. We'll support that team. We'll support Neil Lennon today, 100%. Definitely. Before we actually go to the action, Scotty Allcroft, tell me your prediction for today's game.
3-0.
3-0 Celtic, that's bold. Yeah. Going to give us a first goal scorer?
Edward, if he's got his France top on underneath his Celtic top.
3-0 Eddie. Kevin?
I'm going to go 3-1 Shane Duffy. First goal, 17 minutes, Turnbull corner kick.
I agree. I think Shane Duffy will score the first goal, but it will be for Kilmarnock. And Celtic will win 3-1. it's one of the ones, Scott. I'm not that confident that we can go through a 90-minute period and no letting a goal at the moment. But, you know, Duffy, I seen him the other night. I was trying to be really positive. I actually do think it's the best game he's played in the hoops. But there was still that rawness. That he's quite cumbersome at times. He dives up for big headers and it hits him on the arm and his eyes are closed and all this kind of stuff. A couple of passes went astray. But let's see after a couple of games if that confidence comes back. And I'm hoping him and Julian can get a partnership going, because Ayer looked pretty good at right back, did he not?
Aye, definitely. I mean, he's just short of confidence, you know. If they call him an empty jersey and stuff like that, he obviously reads what's happening on Twitter and stuff like that. So the guy's confidence is just shot. So like I said, if he can get a clean sheet today, then maybe that'll give him the confidence boost that the guy needs.
I hope so, and it'll work well for Hazard as well. Now, one final reminder before we get into the action today, we will be back at half-time, is that we're at just a £40 at the last check away from £5,000 for our fundraiser. We're going to go live for 24 hours over the weekend of the quadruple treble. Hopefully it is a quadruple treble next weekend. And we'll be joined by loads of other Celtic podcasts. All the big hitters will be in there as well. Please chuck us a couple of quid if you can during the game and get us up to 5k for the new week. That would be fantastic. We've got some big messages. Don't know if there's subliminal messages already coming through from Kevin's artwork in his room, but we've got some big messages coming this week, and it's been great to hear from the likes of Craig Bellamy and big McAvenny and Gianni Capaldi, etc. So let's go to the action and we'll see everybody at half time. Thank you, Scotty Allcroft and Kevin Graham, for joining me on A Celtic State of Mind.